अन्यथा शरणं नास्ति त्वमेव शरणं मम तस्मात् कारुण्यभावेन रक्ष रक्ष जिनेश्वर रक्ष रक्ष जिनेश्वर रक्ष रक्ष जिनेश्वर शांतिनाथ शांतिनाथ रतन रूपाणु
शांतिनाथ शांतिनाथ रतन रूपाणु
शांति पमाडे वो स्मरण हुफाळु शांति पमाडे वो स्मरण हुफाळु
शांतिनाथ शांतिनाथ रतन रूपाणु
शांतिनाथ शांतिनाथ रतन रूपाणु अन्यथा जिने
शांतिनाथ शांतिनाथ रतन रूपाणु
शांति पमाडे वो स्मरण हुफाळु शांति पमाडे वो स्मरण हुफाळु
शांतिनाथ शांतिनाथ रतन रूपाणु
शांतिनाथ शांतिनाथ रतन रूपाणु स्नेह सुधारस नयनोथि वहतु स्नेह सुधारस नयनोथि वहतु स्मित मधुरो प्रभु आधरे रहतु स्मित मधुरो प्रभु आधरे रहतु वत्सल वदननु तेज निराळु
वत्सल वदननु तेज निराळु शांतिनाथ शांतिनाथ रतन रूपाणु
कालार घेला प्रभु शब्दोनी माळा कालार घेला जिन राज करवे मारे नित्य आराधना जिन राज करवे मारे नित्य आराधना ले जो स्वीकारे वे अधूरी उपासना ले जो स्वीकारे एवी अधूरी उपासना बल जो निरंतर शरण तमारू
जो निरंतर शरण तमारू शांतिनाथ शांतिनाथ रटन रूपाणु
शांति पमाडे वो स्मरण हुफाळू शांति पमाडे वो स्मरण हुफाळू शांतिनाथ शांतिनाथ रटन रूपाळू शांतिनाथ शांतिनाथ रटन रूपाळू शांतिनाथ शांतिनाथ रटन रूपाळू
Jai Jinendra, and welcome everyone to Virayatam SCVP adult class. So really warm welcome to you all. With sadness, I say this is our penultimate class today, but it's not going to be our last for a long time. We've got one more session next week, and then we'll resume after the summer break. My name's Shailene. I'm a teacher at the school, been in part of the school for 8-9 years, and teach the modular class. And today we're going to have two very special people sharing some information with us. First, we'll have one of our youngest, or not youngest, but one of our newest students, Neil, who joined the school in September, and he'll be sharing the prayers with us in a moment. And then we will continue our adult class learning of Walk With Me, and we'll be going on to chapter 7, which is on Sadhana, with Hinaben, who's been part of the school since the school started about 23 years ago. So she's been a teacher, part of the school for since it started, and we're lucky that she's able to share her knowledge with us. So with that, I'd just like to say the school is founded on 3 core principles. They are Shiksha, which is learning and studying, Sadhana, spiritual practice, and we'll learn more about that in the main talk, and Seva, which is service and volunteering and charity work, which I shared about last week. So just to say a little bit more about Shiksha and learning and studying. So as I mentioned, the school's been running for 23 years. Lots of people have come through the school. Lots of teachers are part of the school. Lots of students are part of the school. Many people, invited guests and supporters. And with that learning, even with the changes we've had occur in our lives over the last 4 months, these adult classes have been running for the last 4 months online, every week, coming to your homes through the power of technology, as well as not just the adult classes, but classes for the students of all the years, from 4 years old to teenagers. They've been taking part in the classes, as well as our youth teachers. So all of that's been running and being delivered. And just to mention that we have online classes with our Sadhviji's in India, which are running throughout the week at various mornings and afternoons. So your learning can continue, and the SCVP website has more information on those details. So I'd like to now introduce Neil. Neil is 11 years old. He's in Madhyama class, and he joined our school in September. So this is his first academic year. And Neil is going to recite to us the Noka mantra, and then it'll be followed by the Logos. So what we would request is everyone to stay on mute for while Neil recites, but you can recite at home while you're on mute and have your hands in the prayer position. You can close your eyes if you would like to and listen very carefully as Neil shares the Noka mantra and the Logos with Bahao. Neil, over to you.
Thank you, Shailin Bhai. Namo Arahantanam Namo 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 Siddhanam Namo 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 Ayariyanam Namo 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 Uvajayanam Namo 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 Lowe Savasahunam Namo Lowe Savasahunam Eso Panchanamukaro Sava Pava Panashano Mangalarancha Savvesim Padamam Have Mangalam Padamam Have Mangalam Logasa Ujjo Agare Dhamma Thitare Jine Arihante Kittaisam Chovisam Pi Kevali Usabamajiyam Cha Vande Sambhavam Abhinandanam Cha Suma Incha Paumapaham Supasam Jinam Cha Chandapaham Vande Suvihim Cha Puffadantam Sialasi Jan Savasapujjam Cha Vimalamanantam Jajinam Dhammam Santim Cha Vandami Kunthum Aram Cha Mallim Vande Munisuvayam Namijinam Cha Vandami Rithanemim Pasatah Vadhamanam Cha Evam Mae Abithua Vihuyarayamala Pahina Jaramarana Chovi Sampi Jinavara Thetayarame Pasyantu Kittiya Vandiya Mahiya Je Logasa Uttama Siddha Aruga Bohilabham Samahivaramuttamam Dintu Chandesu Nimmalayara Aichesu Ahiyam Payasayara Sagaravara Gambhira Siddha Siddhim Mamadisantu Sagaravara Gambhira Siddha Siddhim Mamadisantu.
Brilliant, Neil. So wonderful. Did you learn those two during this year? Both the prayers?
Yeah.
Really well done. It was said nice and loud, real clear pronunciation and with confidence and with a smile on your face. So really well done, Neil, on that. Could I just ask everyone to come off mute for a moment and let's give Neil some encouraging rounds of applause. Brilliant, Neil. Thank you.
Well.
Good. So, as we've seen, these are some of the things that we learn at the school, and so lovely to have seen a new student like Neil, share this and constantly share this in front of everyone. And it's not just the learning of the Dharma, but it's learning of life skills and virtues and qualities that the school helps develop. So we can see that really nice and clear. And so that leads us nicely onto our topic today, which is, Walk With Me, Chapter 7, Sadhana, Spiritual Practice. And as I mentioned, Hinaben is one of our teachers from when the school was founded. She has a master's in, I'll just double check that. Yeah, master's degree in Jainology and Comparative Religions. And over to Hinaben to please enlighten us and share with us about sadhana. And thank you so much. Oh, sorry, just before that, sorry, one moment, I forgot to share something. If anyone would like to ask any questions, if you put them on the chat, we will take them at either appropriate breakpoint in the session or towards the end of the session. So you can put your questions in the chat, and through the rest of the lesson, if you could just keep yourself on mute, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much.
Jai Chidendra, everybody. I would like to start with a little prayer, if that's okay. श्रद्धा से नमन करे हम तेरा अनुसरण करे हम पल पल में स्मरण करे हम महावीर स्वामी। भौतिक सुख छोड़े सारे संयम का पथ अपनाया ममता के तोड़े धागे आत्मा में ध्यान लगाया जग को परिवार बनाया तुम में का भेद मिटाया करुणा का रस बरसाया महावीर स्वामी। श्रद्धा से नमन करे हम तेरा अनुसरण करे हम पल पल में स्मरण करे हम महावीर स्वामी। वितराग प्रभु महावीर चरणों में वंदना। पूज्य श्री आचार्य जी, चन्ना जी and Sadhvi ji Maharaj, dear sisters and brothers. We are reading the textbook Walk With Me. This text is compiled of Sri Acharya Ji Channa Ji's vision, and Professor Vastupal Parikh rendered these visions in the book form. Walk With Me is a text that offers us the opportunity to see Lord Mahavir through Gautam Swami's eyes, who is his first disciple. So far, we have looked at some really important events of Bhagwan Mahavir's life. Today is another very important chapter, Sadhana, which talks about Bhagwan Sadhana, that is meditation period. So I would please request you all to use your Zoom chat, and if you can, just put down some of your thoughts on why do we need sadhana and what do you think Bhagwan Mahavir did during those 12.5 years of his sadhana period.
So we've got for peace and spiritual development of oneself, to experience bliss, search for the truth, meditation.
That's good.
To get rid of anger, greed, ego, and deceit.
Excellent.
Give you peace of mind and blissfulness. Experience of the self, of the soul. Experience samyak darshan. Focus on one's inner self to find answers from within and to be on the right path.
Very good. Excellent.
Control of the mind. compassionate work, and again, another one mentioning getting rid of the kashais, practice equanimity.
Yeah. Very good. Seems like everybody is on the same path. Yeah, very good. Okay, so I would just first let's look at sadhana. So sadhana, literally a means of accomplishing something, is a term coming from the yogic tradition, and it refers to any spiritual exercise that is aimed at progressing the sadhak towards towards the various ultimate expression of his or her life in this reality. It includes a variety of disciplines in Hindu, Buddhist, Jain, and Sikh tradition are followed in order to achieve various spiritual and ritual objects. So, in our routine life, if we want to achieve something, we have to work at it. May that be our profession, business, study, and so on. Some way on our spiritual journey, sadhana, in other words, purusharth, is the tool to prepare our upadan, which is substantive cause. Once the upadan is ready, then if we are lucky to have nimit karan, then the path towards realizing our soul is clear for us. If upadan is not ready, then nimit karan cannot do anything. For example, Gautam Swami and Gosalak both met Mahavir Bhagwan, but Gautam Swami was ready and Gosalak was not. Now, let us see how was Bhagwan Mahavir sadhana from Gautam Swami's viewpoint. As you can see, Gautam Swami was asked all these questions, and so he was asked, where did Bhagwan Mahavir go? What was the force driving him? How did he endure the hardships of 12.5 years of lonely sadhana? What difficulty and dangers did he face? And so I would like to read the answer from the book, just because Gautam Swami have responded so beautifully to all these queries. So Gautam Swami says, people expect me to know all about this period in Mahavir's life because I, Indrabuddhi Gautam, have been his disciple for so many years. However, I too am desperately looking for the answers because Mahavir has always been silent on these matters. Perhaps there are clues in his sermons and in his day-to-day living. I try hard to analyze his every word, his every move. For all my efforts, what have I found? What have I learned so far? All I can say is that I am like a child standing on the shore trying to embrace the vast ocean. So, thus, even though Gautam Swami lived with Bhagwan Mahavir, he hardly knew about his hardships, since Bhagwan hardly talked about it. We are always anxious to enjoy the benefits of Bhagwan's advice and guidance, but did we ever think how he must have felt about those deadly dangers for 12 long years? Bhagwan was insulted, hassled, harassed, and even physically assailed by many of his detractors. However, Mahavir's response, if he ever did respond, to all these atrocities was always equanimity and compassion, not hatred or revenge. It was Bhagwan's extreme courage and determination that must have given him the strength to face all this. People like us would hardly tolerate such atrocities without fighting back. Human mind instinctively react with anger and violence towards inhuman atrocities. Is it not? If somebody comes to hit us straight away, we sort of, start thinking and hitting back. That's the way it is. But how did Lord Mahavir gain mastery over his mind to react with so much compassion towards such atrocities? Gautam Swami was trying to analyze it. Gautam Swami says, so while he was trying to analyze it, Gautam Swami says that Nandivardhan told him that Vardhaman had full control over his physical pain and pleasure before he left the palace. With full command over his body and mind, Vardhaman was no longer distracted by the demands and desires of his body. Aja Channa's query was the same, that how come Bhagwan never gave up even though he suffered so much? In that response, Sudharma Swami said, do not link suffering with self-realization. Suffering is everywhere. All living beings suffer, but such suffering does not bring self-realization. Maharaja Indravardhan says, Veervardhaman was totally absorbed in his search for reality. He had such a mastery over his body and mind that he could take physical pain and pleasure with equanimity and without any distraction. On that, Ajahn Channa's query, Ajahn Channa again mind that sorry, Michami Dupon. On that, Ajahn Channa's query that how did Bhagwan master his body and mind? Again, I would like to take this answer from the book as Sudharma Swami answers Ajahn Channa's question that how did Bhagwan master his body and mind? So Sudharma Swami says, it is likely that in his early days of sadhana, Vardhaman was uneasy with the demands of his body for food and sleep. However, his sadhana started long before he left his palace. Lost in his quest, he was used to going without food and sleep for days. So, having no food or sleep may not have been a great hardship when he entered the woods. So, if it was not that, then what was Bhagwan's biggest struggle during his sadhana? May I have some of your responses, please, on your Zoom chat?
So, yeah, if on the chat you could put some answers to this question, that would be good. And there is one question, if you would like to just consider it when to answer it, Hinaben, which is just to clarify the meaning of upadhan and nimit.
Sure. Okay, so I will tell you the meaning, and meanwhile, if people can start giving me their responses. So, upadhan is it's substantial cause that which itself changes its own condition, and upadhan, and then the other one is instrumental cause, that which does not change its own condition, but upon which suitability is imposed. So, for example, say you want to make a pot. So the clay is upadhan, and the pot maker is nimit karan. Without pot maker, we cannot make the pot, but at the same time nimit. So you have to have the clay to make the pot. So clay is upadhan and pot maker is nimit karan. Is that clear?
Professor Hinaben, if you'd like to confirm if you're happy with that response. And some of the answers we're getting are extreme hardships by dev, manushya, animals and nature, control of the mind, Sangam Dev, ultimate equanimity. And someone said it's such a great question to ask. What was Mahavir Bhagwan's biggest struggle during his sadhana? Very good question to ask. And Russell Ben has confirmed, yes, the explanation for Upadhan and Nimitta has helped.
Excellent. So you will get the answer. I know it's a big question. You will get your answer by the end of this chapter.
So we've got
That's
had
the
suffering
reason
of,
I put it forward.
sorry, and we've had suffering of the body, we've had ego, equanimity and not feeling pain for suffering of others. So those are some of the things being shared as his biggest struggles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not bad. Mm-hmm. Okay. So should I continue, Shalinbai?
Yes, please.
Okay. So Sudharma Swami thinks, he says in his own words, I believe that his real problem in the initial stages must have been to face ego. As a rich prince whose every wish was once at his command, it must have been intensely humbling to go to someone's door, half naked, and beg as a mendicant, overcoming ego and having to ask people to spare some food must have been his true devils. And when you read Uttarajan Sutra, it's the same thing. So many places, we see so many places, whenever any prince wanted to renounce, this was always considered as one of the hardest things pointed out by their parents to do. And even like today, when anybody decides that they want to take Diksha, their parents, for them, this is the biggest thing for the parents, that it is natural. And we can think that at the moment we all eat and drink however way it pleases us. But just imagine from tomorrow onwards, if we have to depend on someone to provide us with food, shelter, and clothes, which are bare necessities. Not only that, but we have to beg for food, shelter, and clothes. I think we will feel ashamed, is it not? That just for basic needs, if we have to go and ask. So it looks like that, but then what is it stopping us? What is it that making us feel ashamed? I think that is our ego. Yes? So Bhagwan wanted to fight his inner enemy. This is what he was out there for. Now, when he was out there, again, the newest monk, Gandhar Prabhas, also was curious, as when he joined Bhagwan, he always had this question in his mind. So when he joined as a disciple, it was his query, and that was always, he thought that moksha exist or not. He firmly believed that bliss and everlasting happiness are God's rewards to those who win his favors. He questioned Gautam Swami, what was the goal of Mahavir's sadhana? What did he say? Gautam Swami answered, Mahavir was seeking full knowledge of his soul. Gandhar Prabhas again asked, but why? What do you gain from it? Gautam Swami replied, knowing our soul is the true goal of all our sadhana. So the soul is knowable entity, but who among us really knows the soul? When we talk about ourselves, we use the words me or I. Now, who is that me? May I have some of the responses, please? So who is that me we are talking about?
So we've had the answer, the body. It's come through. the body, not the mind. Me is the soul, but we think it is the body.
Yeah.
Just give it another moment to see if there's any more answers coming through. The experience of the senses is another answer. The soul. Okay, yep. Now I think that's it for the moment for answers for that question.
Excellent. It's good anyway. It is actually within us. It is our soul. It is just a part of us. And Bhagwan was in search of that mystical me who makes us feel happy, sad, virtually rules our lives. Also, Ajahn Channa inquired what me is. Is it the soul, the mind, the conscious, or our physical being? Are these all different entities or just different terms for the same entity? So this is the question we all have. And Ajahn Channa had the same question. So this query was opening doors to Bhagwan's 12 mysterious years. Gautam Swami replies from whatever he had heard from Bhagwan. So again, I would just read it out what Gautam Swami says. Gautam Swami says, the soul, the mind, the conscious, and our physical being are all different, but they all influence one another. If we want to understand Mahavir Sadhana, we must first understand the interplay between mind and the soul. Mahavir was able to understand it and thereby know it. Me is also often called soul, Atma, Jeev, self, Chetna, or consciousness. Actually, me is the self only in its purest state. Pure me has infinite consciousness and unlimited knowledge and energy. But the me within us is impure, bonded, and contaminated by material karmic particles. These material particles limit our knowledge and vision and also cause our impure self to generate some kind of vibrations. These vibrations are our psychic and emotional states, desires and passions, which are collectively called our bhav karma or our chit. The emotional state in the impure self are actually created in response to events occurring within the material objects that exist in the external world. So this was the answer given by Gautam Swami. Okay. So, for example, pleasure and pain are the emotional states of the impure self caused by nervous impulses or thought process. External objects do not contain pleasure or pain. They cause such impulses. Thus, this process is all due to our impure soul. Soul generates the responses according to its own state of impurity. So, while Gautam Swami answered all this in different ways, this is the gist of what Gautam Swami explained, and Prabhas Swami tries to summarize Gautam Swami's explanation. So in these 5 sentences, it gives you the gist of who is me and how it gets contaminated. So external events affect our body and senses as well as our soul and the inflow of Draga karma. Our body and senses transmit impulses to our mind and brain and uh, it, sorry, our body and senses transmit impulses to our mind and brain. This causes neurochemical changes in the brain. The mind and the brain then may send signals to our bowel center through our thought processes. At the same time, our impure soul generates bowel waves and transmits those to the bowel center. The bowel center then sends impulses back to our mind and sense organs, instructing them on how to respond. Maybe we can understand this with this diagram a bit better. See, these are the 5 things that happens. Okay, so first thing, what happens? Body and our senses perceive the external events, and that affects our body and soul, causing inflow of dravya karma, that is minute current. Okay. Then secondly, what happens? The body and senses send impulses to mind and the brain. Then the mind and the brain send thought signals to the bowel center. And then mind may respond spontaneously without consulting bowel center. This is what normally happens in our case. We always like it. We just respond straight away without asking our soul. And then what happens? The soul generates endless bowel waves all the time. That is Kashai bhava and Kshai bhava, causing bhava center to release bhava karma, responses to the perceived external events. So really, until this is what happens, if we wait until we get the message from our real soul, that is our G, then maybe our reaction to all the everything that happens outside would be different. But generally, we just don't go that far. We don't wait till the message comes from inside. It is always our mind and brain, and we start reacting. Okay. So let's move on a bit. We will understand this little more after we have one example. Okay. Right. So Gautam Swami just about finished the explanation to Ajachannas on what is mean. Meanwhile, Gandhar Sudharma Swami had another query. So he asked to Gautam Swami, Bhagwan Mahavir was in search of the self. Was he not at the same time concerned with the purity or impurity of the mind? So this was the question that Sudharma Swami asked. In the response to that, Gautam Swami replies, Sudharma, the purity issue comes later. Mind and soul interactions are so intertwined that it is hard to appreciate their individual activities. Bhagwan Mahavir's technique of sadhana has evolved out of his deep insight. According to that insight, you are different from your mind, which is an outsider. The mind cannot and must not be allowed to control your soul. You are your own master. The me has own independent authority. Understand this and discipline your mind so that you can liberate the me from the dominance of your mind. So this was the answer, and then he carries on. Now, as the discussion goes on, he again says the samsara, the cycles of death and rebirth, and the resultant suffering is due to intervening of me and the mind. Being able to recognize these two separate entities is to know self. This knowledge enables you to be free of all miseries and enjoy bliss. Mahavir was focused on this insight. So we get our answer here. And then, so Gautam's, sorry, Nikshamitukram. How did Bhagwan endure his pain and suffering? So now, as the discussion goes on, Ajachanna had another query. She is saying, how did Bhagwan endure this pain and suffering and still remain focused on his goal? So many challenges and atrocities, such inhuman treatment, yet Bhagwan always showered only love and compassion on every living being. Why? How? Gautam Swami's response was that these calamities certainly did have the effect on Bhagwan, but he was so engrossed in his sadhana for the freedom of soul that his body started cooperating and prevented external events from disturbing his sadhana. His soul becomes mere observer, the knower. We can imagine this as sometimes we are so engrossed in something important that we are doing that we also forget to eat and drink. So that must have happened to Bhagwan Mahavir. So Gautam Swami adds on to Ajachanna's query. He says, during those 12 years, several people, kings and commoners, may have showered tributes and praise on Mahavir, and several others may have heaped insults and atrocities. However, I am certain that Mahavir merely observed these events, merely saw them and heard them. His mind may have carried his information up to his soul, but his soul, in turn, would promptly have instructed his thought to suppress all ill passions and generate only forgiveness, thus preventing any negative responses. As a result, his senses, his mind and body became mere silent and observers without generating any negative responses. This is why our acharyas and everybody always uh, advise us to just be an observer. Yeah. So a person in deep sadhana is so detached from his body that the atrocities, calamities, pain and pleasure become distant event for him. These events do not disturb him and cannot distract him from his sadhana. His soul becomes mere observer, just the knower. Yeah. So now his deeper sadhana Bhagwan have already reached a state that he naturally responds with compassion, affection, and love, even for those who have insults and abuse at them. We can take the example of Bhagwan's response as Sudharma Swami also supports that when Bhagwan spent 4 months of the rainy season in the first year of his sadhana, he was staying in a grass hut given to him by a villager. One day, when he was in a deep meditation, the animals ate away all the grass. Bhagwan was so engrossed in his deep meditation that he did not even realize until the villager came and shouted at him with the insults. Furious villager asked him to leave, since not having any response from Bhagwan Mahavir. Such a scenario would have evoked an angry response from a former prince. However, Bhagwan's response was very peaceful. In this incident, his soul must have instructed his mind that it had no authority to generate unilateral response without consulting the chit and the soul, and his chit must have instructed the mind that Mahavir had failed to protect someone else's heart, and that, therefore, instead of getting angry at the owner's excessive behavior, the right response from Mahavir would be to apologize, bless the owner for his generosity, and resolve never again to accept something that he could not look after. This was only the first stage of Mahavir's successfully proven technique for sadhana, eliminating his internal Kashai Tao. He continued after becoming immune to external events and focused on eliminating his internal Kashai Tao. That is, the focus now was on the purification of the soul to find that pure me. Dr. Swami said it took him 12 long years of sadhana for both stopping the inflow of Dravya karma by gaining control over his mind in the first stage and getting rid of existing karmas during the second. So now that Gautam Swami was able to answer the queries, Sudharma Swami again questioned, from these we should prepare some guidelines describing his technique of discovering the soul, discovering the self, should we not? It would be useful tool for our son. But Gautam Swami says, Mahavir discovered his path through focused practice and sadhana. Similarly, each individual must discover their own technique by themselves. For example, we can read and read and read on how to swim, but until we don't have a dip in the water, do you think we will know how it feels? It's the same way we can also take a horse to the water, but we cannot make him drink the water. Mahavir asks us to understand the difference between G, our eternal soul, and everything else that is non-living in this universe. Such understanding is truly achieved only when we fully know our pure self. He was thus able, during the first stage of his sadhana, to train his body, senses, and mind to stop negative responses to adverse events. After that, it was a long road to eliminate all kashais. Nevertheless, Mahavir proved that it is not an impossible task. We too can achieve it through focused and sustained sadhana. Only then would we really understand the true process of liberation. So, I would like to stop my talk here, and if you again, all of you could just use the chat and let us just put down what did we understand, what did we learn from today's talk. Will we do that?
So, yeah, please write down what you've learnt from today's talk, and also if you have any questions. what's one message you took away from the session? One key idea? So we have the importance of contemplation. First thing is to have control of our mind. Then that is important for Nijara. Introspection. Need to learn to control our mind so it does not react. What else did you guys take away? What else did you learn? Discipline, the interrelation of mind, Bhava and soul. I think it was Bhava and soul. Don't make hasty decisions. Continuous practice of control of the mind. It is easy to achieve this. It looks like it's a question, actually. Is it easy to achieve this? From Sandip Pai. And we should always think before reacting. Mahavir did sadhana and extreme penance. Adverse conditions of Nijara, extremely determined. Control of mind so that equanimity can be practiced. So the question we had is it easy to achieve this?
Okay. Okay, so first of all, I would put down this to sum up the talk as is the summary of this talk would be Mahavir Bhagwan's two stages of sadhana. First of all, immune to external events, then eliminate his internal prashadha. Also, what is real me? Understanding the logical distinction between jiva and ajiva is enlightenment. Each individual must discover their own technique to realize their own self. Somebody else cannot do it for us. Yeah. So I would like to summarize this way, and here I would like to end my talk as well. If if I have said anything wrong or against our religion, I say Nichami Dukram. Thank you all for being wonderful listeners, and please ask if you have any questions. Chilenbai, which question was that?
So the question we had was, is it easy to achieve this? And that was from Sandip Pai.
Sandip Pai, very good question. It is not easy, but as I said lastly, that Mahavir Bhagwan proved, it is not impossible either. It does require a lot of control over our mind, a lot of sadhana it needs. It is not impossible. It's not easy, but it is not impossible. That would be my answer. Any
Lovely.
other questions?
Thank you, Hinaben.
You're welcome.
No other questions as yet. Really, this is a great opportunity to ask any questions you have on this topic about sadhana, about mastering the body and the mind, or that interplay between the mind and the soul. So important. It is the path. And as Hinaben said, sharing what Mahavir Bhagwan said, focus, practice, and sadhana is what's required, and each person's path is individual to them, but that's what is required. So any questions regarding that? So Sandip Pai's raised the question, how important is faith?
It is very important, Sandip Pai. Without faith, we cannot go ahead. Everything at the moment, what we have to do is we have to have faith that it is possible. Our Bhagwan did it, then we can do it. Yeah, maybe we will find the way different in a different way. As Bhagwan said, and as Gautam Swami said, that everybody will have their own way of finding themselves, but it is possible. Yeah, and that cannot be done without faith. We have to have faith. So I would say it is very important. Any other question?
Well, I think related to that, it's more of a statement from Bakul Bhai saying he did severe tap, so there must have been, this must have been so difficult. So yeah, what you shared about faith must have been one of the things that served him to be able to do the severe tap, even though it was very difficult.
Yes.
The next question we have is, how important is it to have a guru to the process?
Yeah, I will answer to that, but I would like to add to Bakul Bhai's comment as he said. Sorry, what did Bakul Bhai have said?
He said Mahavir Bhagwan did severe tap.
Yeah.
This must have been so difficult.
Right. Okay, I came to it now. So, although Mahavir Bhagwan did a lot of tap and he got around to it, but don't forget Marudevi Mata hardly did much, and she achieved Keval Jnana.
And she was Rishabdev Bhagwan's mother, wasn't she?
Yes, yes, yes. So rightly Bhagwan says that we cannot write the proper process how it can be achieved. It is different for everybody, but it may be very difficult for one and may not be very difficult for the other. Yeah. So yes, Bakul Bhai, you are very right. It's good comments. And sorry, what was the question again?
How important is it to have a guru to the process?
Right.
Oh, sorry, to progress, not process, to the progress.
Yeah. Now, this is the question all the time. Everybody has this question. First of all, from my opinion, you must believe in yourself first. You are your own guru. Believe in yourself first. And yes, it is important to have someone as a guru, because it is always that, very hard for a person to find the faults in their own self. Only other person can find those faults. Also, our gurus, all the acharyas, are far ahead than us. So it is so much easier for them to guide us, to point out the faults in us, or whichever way they want us to go. So I would say it is very important to have a guru, but at the same time have that faith in you as well.
Okay, thank you. Bharat Bhavisha is asking, any comparable sadhana to Bhagwan Mahavir? So I'm not quite sure what that question is. Bharat Bhai, do you want to unmute yourself and clarify the question?
Sure. I just wanted to ask if there was any comparable sadhana, like in the 24 Tirthankars compared to Bhagwan Mahavir. Were there any other Tirthankars who did the sadhana as much as Bhagwan Mahavir?
Yeah, no, only not all the Tirthankars suffered as much as Mahavir Bhagwan. Mahavir Bhagwan is the only one who suffered so much. Rest of the Tirthankars did not go through this many difficulties. But of course, they did lot of tap. All the other Tirthankars did lot of tap. But while doing, Bhagwan Mahavir suffered a lot even while he was doing tap. Does that answer your question, Bharat Bhai?
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And so we have a statement as well from Ketan and Kruti, which is an important one as well, which is there have been countless Kevalis who have conducted sadhana to become liberated. So it's just highlighting that countless Kevalis have followed this path of doing their own sadhana and becoming liberated. So just highlighting that it's not just the Tirthankars, that many other people have followed the path and Kevalis and have done the sadhana.
As I said initially, that sadhana is like, it's in Hindus, Jains, Buddhists, everybody have this sadhana. Because the word is very well, like, widely used. So sadhana can be for anything. And yes, yeah, I agree with that.
But also, I think what it's also highlighting is what you shared, that it's difficult, but it's not impossible. So all of us are able to follow that path,
Yes.
do our sadhana, and have the potential possibility of liberation.
Yes.
The same path as these. I think that's the message being highlighted.
It's just in our normal life, if we want to achieve something, you want to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer, we all have to work at it. That is sadhana in our normal life. But on spiritual path, if we want to achieve something, we have to work at it.
Yeah.
So that is sadhana. So sadhana is important.
Brilliant. And that fits nicely with, again, the 3 pillars that we talk about at the school. So we have this shiksha, which is the class we've just had where we're learning. In that learning, then we have to do the practice, which is sadhana. So it can't be just learning. We have to do the effort. We have to do the practice. We have to do the reflection and the contemplation. And then the 3rd pillar being seva, which helps reduce our ego, helping others. So they're all very much connected very nicely. We have a question from Bakul Bhai. So why did Mahavir Bhagwan take so long to achieve Kevalnan?
I don't know, but I think as we say, for everybody, it is going to be different. It is not, you cannot compare to, I don't know, Bakul Bhai, are you comparing to other Tirthankars or, but if you compare it to the other Tirthankars, again, it's Bhagwan Mahavir who suffered a lot more than other Tirthankars. And maybe his karmas were such, or I don't know, somewhere something is that, he suffered the most than any other Tirthankar.
Bakul Bhai or Hinaben, do you want to just come on mute and just clarify the context?
Yeah, Jai Jinendra, Hinaben, yes. I agree with your answer. I mean, I was looking at it from the point of view that some of the Tirthankaras like Rishabdev and Malinath Bhagwan, they achieved Kevalnyan relatively quickly after taking Diksha. So I was just intrigued to see Mahavir Bhagwan nu atli badi var laegi. But I think you're right that it must have been to do with his past sort of karmas. He had to go through all of that over a longer period of time.
Because that's the answer we get from Jainism, isn't it? That everything is karma. It all depends on our karmas, right?
Absolutely.
Just to put it into context, Mahavir Bhagwan's previous life was Rishabdev's grandson. And it took him so many births in order to achieve what he did. And also, if you read his 27 bhavs, but not only the 27 bhavs, even the other bhavs, if you read, you come across a lot of atrocities that were committed before he got his. So I think that has all contributed to the fact that he therefore had to do penance for a longer period. But at the same time, I think it is a great example for us that he achieved what he did, and it just reaffirms our faith in humanity, what he achieved.
Yeah. Also, I believe that as time goes by, like in our time cycle, all the eras, as the time goes by, it's getting worse and worse and worse. So the same thing, like, before people were so like, I always say this word nirmal, they were so like pure, and, so things were easier for them. But as time goes by, just things are very contaminated, and that's why it takes longer. I feel that, I believe that, so I don't know.
Just I guess, to give a different perspective on it, but yeah, a different perspective. It only took him 12.5 years. Wow.
Yeah.
That's another way. Obviously, we need to have the context of the past lives and the understanding the different karmas. But if you think about it, 12.5 years of focus and ability to achieve it, it's doable. So it depends on perspective as well. So there's a question that in this 5th hour, why is it so difficult to do extreme sadhana? And related to that, are we close to the end of an hour?
I believe it's 21,000 years left of this era. That's what I hear and I read. And what was the other question?
Are we close to the end of an era? So you've just mentioned.
Yeah.
So the first one was, why is it so difficult in the 5th hour to do extreme sadhana?
It's because people's mind, I do not get the words correctly at the moment, but Bhagwan Mahavir, what he preached, and from Rishabdev Bhagwan, what he preached, there's one less broth, like Bhagwan Mahavir gave 5 broths, whereas Rishabdev Bhagwan had to give only 4, and that is purely because the way the mind of the people were at the time. Yes, so as the time goes by, and that is, I think it all depends on the scarcity of all the things, yeah, and that's why people get greedy. It's natural in human being that the less things, and then people always are going to fight about things, and I believe that could be the reason that it makes it harder and harder when there is scarcity of the things. Before it was, they had those wishing trees, they could just get things when they wanted. So, yes. And so I feel maybe that is the reason.
Great. Thank you, Hinaben. And I think what we do is we stop our questions at this point, and we formally stop our session at this point. And what I would like to do is take the opportunity to say a few thank yous. So Hinaben, thank you so much for sharing about sadhana, answering the questions, and really highlighting different aspects which are so important about the interplay of the mind and the body, and bringing that message that it's difficult but not impossible, and each person's practice is unique, but that there is a path there. So thank you so much for that. I would also like to just at this point also thank Neil for doing the prayers so lovely at the start of the session. Thank Yash for his help behind the scenes, including Nilesh Bhai, Ketan Bhai, and Pramit Bhai, who are behind the scenes helping to make all this work and capture these sessions onto YouTube. So they're really available on the SCVP YouTube channel. So today's session, as well as all the ones over the last, not just the last few months during lockdown, but previous sessions as well, are all available on the SCVP website. So thank you all for enabling this. As I mentioned, actually, even before that, if you just everyone come off mute and just give a cheer and a round of applause for all of our team members who've helped make this, especially Hinaben with her sharing.
Oh my God.
Brilliant. And including that clap and that thank you is one for Artiben. She is Neil's mum. And in a moment, I'm going to ask her to do the manglik. And so she will do the manglik, and that's when we'll formally completely close. But after the manglik, our poll will come up to give us feedback. So please do stay on after the manglik, answer the poll, and then you can smile and wave and say goodbye. But what I'd like to say before we go into the manglik is to share next week's session. So as I mentioned at the beginning, today's session is the penultimate session. So that means next week is our very last session for this academic year, our last adult class lesson. So with that, it's a very special session where we invite all of you to come to the session, invite your friends and family. And today is the 3rd, that session is on the 10th. So today, with it being the 3rd, tomorrow is the 4th. And this is where America celebrates its Independence Day on the 4th of July. And India celebrates it on the 15th of July, its Independence Day. And an instrumental figure in helping India gain its independence was Mahatma Gandhi. And next week, we have a 29-year-old person called Nitinbhai Sonawani. He is going to join us. He is celebrating the 105th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. And he's doing this by through a journey throughout the world. And he's visited 38 countries to date, starting from Pune in India, where he is from. So 38 countries is visited. And on that visiting and celebrating the 105th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi, he's sharing the message of his journey and the message of non-violence and peace. So this is one which is will be interesting and exciting for everyone to attend, whether they're from the Jain School or not. Invite everyone. It's our special last session, and it'll be on at the same time here. Please do register using the links that you have. And as I mentioned, Nitin Bhai sharing his story and his journey and the messages of Mahatma Gandhi. So that's next week. So now I will invite Artiben to share the Mangalik, and then we'll have our poll come up. So please do fill those out. And then we look forward to seeing you all next week with your family and your friends.
Thank you, Shailen Ben. Bye. Sorry. Chattari Mangalam Arihanta Mangalam Siddha Mangalam Sahu Mangalam Kevali Pannato Dhammo Mangalam Chattari Loguttama Arihanta Loguttama Siddha Loguttama Sahu Loguttama Kevali Pannato Dhammo Loguttama Chattari Sharanam Pavajami Arihante Sharanam Pavajami Siddhe Sharanam Pavajami Sahu Sharanam Pavajami Kevali Pannatam Dhammam Sharanam Pavajami.
Thank you very much, Artiben. It's clear Neil has been teaching you how to say it in a confident, calm, and clear manner. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if everyone could just, take a moment to fill out the poll, please.